So for those of you who don't know, a few weeks ago, I made a video about millennials that made the
So I find this whole like millennial versus Gen Z online debate very interesting. Because first, it follows the same formula that boomers followed, like, you know, in the early aughts when they started making all those articles and like news stories that were like millennials are crashing the housing market with their avocado toast and lattes. It's the same formula, except now it's like millennials are cringe because they talk slow and wear skinny jeans. And like whatever, that's fine. But I would just like it's interesting to me because it's like none of you have taken a critical look or a step back to actually think about like why you're engaging in these kinds of discussions, why you're vying for this kind of social power. And like when boomers were doing this, it was because like millennials had come of age and were entering the workforce, were entering the housing market, things like that, and then the housing market crashed. And we didn't have the same buying power as boomers. So they grew up in an economic boom, and we did not. You can thank Reagan for that. So not only was there a transference of social power and marketability, but we were also seeing the effects of the economic downturn. So that's kind of what was happening with boomers. With Gen Z, the only thing that's happened, because millennials do not have any sort of economic power, the only thing that's happening with Gen Z is a transference of social power. Y'all are now the target market audience. So when you're creating this online discourse with millennials and like calling them cringe for whatever they're doing, I just want you to know you're doing like ad agencies jobs for them. You are actively contributing to capitalism and white supremacy culture. And it's very interesting to me. It's also why you don't really see a lot of black and brown people participating in this kind of discourse, because it's not our fight. Black and brown people have cultures that they can lean back on. We have like actual things that we are, you know, fighting for. And we don't feel the need to have a generational discourse about who's the most cringe. That's embarrassing. But like when you don't have that kind of cultural background, when you don't have those kinds of like issues that you are trying to fight against within white supremacy and within capitalism, you are falling back on the structures that capitalism and white supremacy have outlined for you. So that's honestly what we're seeing happen here. And it's also like a great study on how economics have really impacted the way that white people interact with each other. Because y'all are not fighting for our economic power. You're not. And we couldn't fight for boomers' economic power because they destroyed it. So I just think that's really interesting, and I would like all of these like Gen Z kids who are like self-proclaimed communists, anti-capitalists, and leftists to really like take a step back and take a critical like just have like a single critical thought as to why you're engaging in this kind of discourse and what is the end goal? What does this produce? Who does this help? Because it's really just engaging in an artificial social power struggle. It's benefiting no one except the people who are exploiting our labor.
Oh, millennial pause this, millennial style that. Can we talk about how slow they talk?
This is going to sound meaner than I intended to, but hear me out. It's because not everything that us millennials do is a performance. You see, we grew up in a time, an ancient time, long, long ago, with very little social media. What we had was kind of boring when you think about it. MySpace, the beginnings of Facebook, where you had to have a college email address and an invite. What? So that space, that lack of social media interference, allowed us to develop our own personalities. Mostly based on television shows and comic books and cartoons and things like that, but still, it was our own personalities. We synthesized the information that we were taking in and said, this is who I want to be, and that's who we were, and we were able to just be humans in the world. Kind of nice, right? Then came the inundation of social media platforms. Twitter, Instagram, Vine, TikTok, it all just kept going and going and going. And the problem with that was that younger people started to realize that you could have this visible metric for success and likability, right? You see a number of likes, you see a lot of engagement, a lot of comments. Hey, that is a likable way to be, a likable way to behave, right? And so then the trends and the language of these videos and the content that's going online to these platforms makes its way into the real world. And you start acting that way that you see online in the real world in the hopes it'll get you that same attention. It makes sense. No one's blaming, no one's hating. But the problem is that in the real world, no one wants to talk to someone who's talking like this and trying to get your attention all the time. It's weird and off-putting and lacks any personality and reality. So the reason that we talk this way is because we were given the opportunity to. And the reason that other parts of younger generations talk the way they do is because they weren't given the chance to not have to perform to make friends. That sucks.